At the beginning of the film, the protagonist, Nandan Kumar, is introduced as a blue-collar laborer, who is a prototypical common man caught between his limited means and his unlimited desires. It is challenging for him to pull his family out of their financial bind. His son's demands never cease, and his wife Lata must contend with a perpetual lack of household supplies. Nandan repairs printing press equipment. On his way home from work one evening, he has an urgent need to urinate, so he pauses at a urinal and relieves himself. However, he had no idea that his life would soon take a dramatic turn. Nandan discovers a luggage filled with wads of 2,000 rupee notes. Taken aback, he deliberates for some time before deciding to keep the luggage. Unbeknownst to him, the baggage belongs to a manipulative politician, Minister Patel, and is destined for the address of another politician who engages in unethical behavior. Rewind several days ago. Two unknown criminals shoot Jamil, a local gangster. We discover that Jamil was a subordinate of Mafia Don Bala Rathore. The scene then shifts to Bala, who is in his bungalow watching television. Bala derives inspiration from the animal world he obsessively observes on Nat Geo. While watching the animals on television, he remarks that the Mumbai underworld resembles a wilderness. Every species of animal lurks within the city. To survive, he must learn survival techniques from the creatures of the environment. His two subordinates, Rajan and a graduate student who worships him, stand next to their employer and affirm every statement he makes. Bala insists that they, too, subscribe to the channel and keep abreast of the priceless information the fauna has to offer. The two henchmen, however, have tidings for their boss. They informed Bala that Omar's men had attacked Shamil. Omar is a local goon and the archenemy of Bala. Rajan insists that they pursue Omar, but Bala reveals that the notorious politician Patel is protecting him. Therefore, he intends to wait for the optimal time to attack his adversary. Meanwhile, we learn that Omar's brother-in-law, not Omar, issued the orders to go after Jamil. During Omar's confrontation with his brother-in-law, Abdul intervened. We discover that Abdul always makes poor life choices. Now he is concerned because Bala will undoubtedly come after them. In the next scenario, we see the manipulative politician Patel speaking with his superior Tripathi via telephone. This individual requests that Patel transmit 100 million rupees in a file containing evidence of widespread embezzlement to a specific location. In the meantime, Nandan is visited by his old neighbor Ram Lal, who informs him that he is leaving for a few days to return to his village. The old man then passes Nandan the house key and departs. Next, Patel summons Omar and his men and blackmails them into performing the unlawful work for Tripathi. The men of Omar reluctantly concur and place the money in a red suitcase. As usual, Nandan proceeds to his office in the following scene. That day, his supervisor recognized him as the employee of the month. He is then assigned night duties for the following few days. Bala discovers elsewhere that his rival is about to transport a large sum of cash. He wants Rajan and a graduate to infiltrate Patel's plan and steal the $100 million. In the meantime, whenever his landlord arrives to collect rent, Nandan continues to struggle with his minimum wage. He states that he cannot pay at this time. This causes him to frequently argue with his wife. Later that evening, Nandan begins his night duties while Rajan and graduate pursue Omar's vehicle. The thugs enter Patel's courtyard and retrieve a red luggage and a package. Bala's thugs ambush Omar and his men as they convey the money. Omar and the crew therefore conceal the suitcase during the gunfight in an attempt to retrieve it. Later, the police eventually arrive, and the two opposing gangs swiftly flee the scene. Simultaneously, we observe Nandan returning from his overnight duty. He discovers the red suitcase by accident, and upon discovering that it contains cash, decides to carry it home. This is the movie's opening scene. Back in the present, Nandan drives the suitcase home because it is too weighty to carry. The driver poses suspicious queries to Nandan, who responds with incorrect answers. When he returns home, Nandan is anxious. His wife interrupts him as he considers where he can safely store the suitcase by inquiring what delayed his return home that evening. She is in the mood for intimacy, but Nandan is preoccupied with his recent financial success, so he rejects her. Later that evening, he recalls his former neighbor having left his house key. Thus, Nandan determines to conceal the red suitcase at the residence of Ram Lal before extracting 2,000 rupees. In the meantime, Patel attacks his employees for losing the suitcase. Omar suspects that their rival Bala is responsible and makes the decision to contact him. The Don of the Mafia denies the accusation. but he overhears Patel fretting about the package containing vital documents. Both factions have now dispatched men to locate the suitcase and the file at any cost. At home, Nandan cannot comprehend the good fortune he has recently received. He even begins conversing with the suitcase, referring to it as his new companion. He hopes that from this point forward, his existence will be an endless joy ride. Back at Patel's, his superior Tripathi continues to intimidate him, so he blackmails a police officer named Colt and assigns him to retrieve the suitcase. Colt and his informant immediately begin collecting information about the shootout and inspecting the scene. Nandan is returning home from work when he observes the police officer inspecting the CCTV cameras. Thankfully, the cameras are not operational, so he can return home in good spirits. In the subsequent scenes, Nandana's existence changes drastically. He eventually becomes accustomed to the currency and begins to spend it more. Nandan gives his son an abundance of presents and takes his family to a shopping mall and Chinese restaurant. Letta reveals to her husband, while watching a movie, that she has instructed a cleaner to clean the home of their former neighbor. Worried, Nandan makes an excuse and rushes off to Ramlal's residence, where the suitcase is kept, to retrieve it. Patel and Bala's thugs continue to search for the baggage. During their investigation, they discover that Officer Colt has also become involved in the case. Therefore, Regin is entrusted with monitoring him elsewhere. Nandan realizes he should not keep all of the money, so he removes some stashes from the suitcase, divides it into multiple containers, and conceals them in various locations. He stores one packet in his desk compartment, another in his water tank, etc. Then, he purchases a stove for his wife and a new backpack for his son. Nandan explains to Lada that he received the money from his new acquaintance when she inquires about his source of wealth. He explains that he purchased these items at a discount. The next day, Nandan must attend an award ceremony at his office, but he is late because the water faucet in his bathroom stops functioning. He then proceeds upstairs to inspect the tank, where he discovers that the money stash has been obstructing the water. Nandan swiftly removes the stashes and places them on the roof to dry. Before he can leave for work, his old neighbor Ramlal returns from his village to return his house key. Realizing that his baggage is still at Ramlal's residence, Nandan tells a falsehood about losing the key and convinces his former neighbor to forge a new one. While Ramlal is away at the locksmith, Nandan slips into his home and retrieves the suitcase. Later, upon arriving at his office, Nandan discovers that the award ceremony has concluded and he was unable to attend. He returns home to discover his neighbors dancing their hearts out in celebration of the landlord's birthday. The money stashes that Nandan had dried on the roof are seen floating everywhere. In the meantime, one CCTV camera becomes operational, allowing Colt to observe Nandan driving away from the scene. Chris Shaw, the police officer, confronts the driver and learns where Nandan was left off on that fateful evening. In the next scenario, our fortunate hero struggles to conceal his wealth from his neighbors in Lada. In an attempt to spend his cash, he tries to purchase a luxurious condominium, only to discover that they do not accept cash. Colt and his men arrive simultaneously at the location, where Nandan was dropped off by the auto driver. The authorities begin their investigation by contacting nearby banks to determine if a suspicious man deposited a large sum of cash. To return to our hero, Nandan visits his bank to receive his Employee of the Month award. He inquires about a cash counting mechanism, but the cashiers dismiss him with laughter. Nandan adds that he has 2 bags of cash at his residence. The cashiers appear dubious, which they report to their supervisor. When Colt is investigating at the same bank as the paranoid Nandan, Nandan makes a scene and departs. The cashiers inform him of Nandana's suspicious conduct and give him his address. Colt arrives at Nandana's residence simultaneously with Lada, who discovers the concealed luggage in the kitchen. The police officer enters the room and abruptly interrupts Nandan as he attempts to explain the situation to his wife. Colt holds the family at gunpoint and demands that they return the money. With reluctance, Nandan complies. The officer then informs Nandan about the package in the office and takes him there to retrieve it. Regin and the graduate arrive at the scene as Colt is dragging his red suitcase towards his vehicle and take a picture of him. They then send the photo to their employer, and Bala and Patel band together to murder Colt and recover the money. Colt waits outside Nandan's office with the suitcase, unaware that Bala's thugs are directly behind him. Nandan enters the office to discover his intoxicated supervisor rambling about his personal life. This prevents Nandan from retrieving the remaining funds for his office. Bala's men ambush Colt in the meanwhile. During their battle, however, Graduate is killed and Colt is able to flee. He obtains Patal's file, and recognizing its significance, determines to blackmail him. In another area of his office, Nandan's intoxicated employer is still restraining him. As Colt endeavors to feed the packet, he instructs him to report to a hidden warehouse. Nandan makes it there, but he becomes entangled between the two groups. With their respective troops, Bala and Omar ambush the warehouse. During the subsequent conflict, Colt urges them to reach a compromise so they can rest for a while. However, the officer has a fallback plan in which his informant arrives unexpectedly and begins shooting everyone in the ensuing gunfight. The only survivor who has not learned his lesson about avarice is Nandan. The file is left behind while Nandan determines to transport the cash to the warehouse. From that point on, his financial woes begin to abate, permanently improving his family's circumstances. However, Nandan never learns the true proprietor of the suitcase. In the final scene of the film, we discover that the mysterious file's contents are leaked. Patel's political career is doomed. He then retires to his village and begins farming, but Omar's men soon track him down and murder him. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our Film Insider channel and click the bell icon.